I made these Christmas cards using wood ash from my stove and some of the lime wash that had flaked off the walls. I didn't want to use glitter because it's usually made of plastic, and I thought maybe this could be a good substitute. It's been really cold and misty here at the farm recently. Usually our winters are very wet, so I'm actually appreciating this colder, drier weather for a while. When it freezes, we always get so many birds visiting the orchard, mainly to eat the apples, which are on the ground. It seems like it's one thing they can eat when the weather gets really, really cold. I perfected the recipe for the rum and fig bars. Last time I made it, I just guessed with the quantities, and this time I measured everything properly. There used to be a monkey puzzle tree growing on the farm. It's a kind of unusual decorative tree that they planted in Victorian times. The one we had was dying though, and it had to be cut down a few years ago. These are some of the last pieces of it, and I thought it would be interesting to try and make something from them. I've taken the bark off this piece of the monkey puzzle tree, and I've got this tool for my angle grinder that might be able to carve some of the wood. So I'm going to see if I can do this, see how it works, and then maybe I can make something from this. The tool I got is like a kind of rough metal thing that's supposed to carve wood away, and I'm wondering if I can do that to make like a rough shape of maybe a bowl or something like this. But I think I need to clamp this down somehow. I actually think this has potential. The only thing is, I didn't think it through properly. I think I need to cut it in half first, like cut this piece across the middle. Also, maybe I need to do the hollowing out bit before I do this bit. I couldn't really find a way to cut this piece of wood safely. I tried in the big saw and it was just too unstable. And then I tried splitting it in other ways, but I just couldn't do it. Okay, different plan. Getting tired of this. Oh. Last week, it felt like everything I did went so well and everything was working, it was so easy. This week, it just feels the opposite. Even though I felt really creative recently and I've had loads of ideas, that kind of gets overwhelming. The thing about this kind of stuff though is that this is the way I learn, and I actually really enjoy learning things this way. Just rushing into them sometimes, not knowing what I'm doing, is kind of better than doing a lot of research and planning, because that kind of thing can put you off. If you realize what's actually involved, then you might think, oh no way, this is going to be too much. But if you don't think about that, you're blissfully ignorant and you just dive into something, then you tend to work out those problems along the way. I kind of love that there's always a stage where you lose hope and you lose belief that you're going to do it, and you just think, what am I doing? This is stupid, it looks awful, it's never going to work. But then you keep going and eventually it does come together, and you look back on that moment where you lost hope. And yeah, I always try to remember that when I'm in that phase, that I will get through it, and I will look back and think that it was silly to think that way. I've cut this down a bit, so it's maybe better shape to work with. Okay, I think I've got a shape that I'm mostly happy with now. So now I think I need to smooth it down a lot, see if I can make it look nice. I'm definitely wondering if I can make something from this sawdust. There's so much of it. I want to find out if my apple cider vinegar that I've tried to make has actually worked. It's got a weird thing floating on top, which actually looks gross, but I think it's a vinegar mother, which is a sign, I think, that it's worked. I've got some acid paper things that tell you the pH, and I'm just going to have a look to see if it's acidic enough yet. So this has a pH of 3, I think, which is definitely quite acidic. It's probably good enough, so I think I might bottle these now. Last time I made the fig bars, I chopped the walnuts, but this time I ground them in the blender, and I think it made it a lot better. I also added lemon zest and orange zest to give it a bit more flavour and taste a bit more Christmassy. I've been working on knitting and spinning more of this jumper. I finished the front and this is the sleeve that I've started. So I'm just making up the pattern as I go along. I'm just going to see how it turns out. I'm hoping I can spend some time working on it over Christmas. I'm going to stay with my parents, so that might be a good time to just focus on this and make some good progress. I think I found a better way to process this clay ready to use. I picked out some bits that were actually really quite clean already, and what I'm just doing is like mixing it up in my hands, and then I'm like pressing it very thin and flat to feel if there's any little bits of grit or stones. There's a bit. It's interesting, it seems like a mixture of very orange clay and then more kind of grey coloured clay here. I made these little bowls just using the clay and my hands. They're a very rough looking shape, but I'm going to test them and see if they can be fired inside the wood stove. It's so nice when you get the clay just the right consistency and moisture content. It feels so nice to work with. Wow, this stove now feels so hot. Oh my goodness. Whoa. So to do this, I think I'm going to try and push the wood to the sides and then put the bowls in the middle maybe. Oh. Is this going to work? I don't know. Oh. I'm going to try and maybe bury them a bit inside the hot coals. Whoa! Oh no, it just broke. Oh no! They just broke. Oh. Okay. Oh. Right, okay. So I think they just broke when I put them in. That's what that popping sound was. I can see one of them cracked. But I'm going to leave them in there, and then when it's all died down, I'll just see what the situation is. Ah, that's annoying. It might not be possible. So this bowl cracked when I put it in the stove. It's possible that it's because I put it straight into the hot stove. Maybe when you fire things in a kiln, it heats up slowly and perhaps that stops things cracking. It's kind of a shame. I quite like this bowl. The other one, the smaller one, is just completely shattered. That's such a shame. Oh. When I made my firelighters before, I used beeswax, which is really good, but it's quite expensive. and I had an idea to maybe use old scraps of wax from old candles. There's also this big pillar candle which is broken at the bottom and it won't stand up, so I think I'm going to try to cut some off to make it stand up again, and then maybe I can recycle the wax from that as well. I'm just remelting this wax because I'm going to make some candles and maybe some more firelighters, but I always forget how messy it is working with wax. I've already got it everywhere. One thing I am doing is after a few dips, there's some drips at the bottom of each candle, and I'm just cutting them off because I think they're adding length to the bottom, which I don't want, because then every time I dip it, it won't reach up as high, and I think that will be a problem. I've sanded the bowl now as much as I can. There are a few marks on the inside that I couldn't get rid of, but I'm just putting some oil on it to make the wood look a bit better and protect it. Not sure if I like it yet. It looks very roughly made, obviously, because it is. As an experiment, I am putting this sawdust from making the bowl into an egg tray, and I'm going to pour the wax, the leftover wax, over it, just to see if it makes a usable firelighter. Because these are all scrap materials that otherwise I wouldn't use for anything.